Suppose that a stock index was 100 on January 1st, and on January 2nd it climbed to 110, and then on January 3rd it fell back to 100, right? So if you have bought and hold whatever this stock was for 2 days, you would have moved sideways. Now imagine instead you had bought a levered ETF, right? So between the first and the second, the stock had gained 10%, your ETF would have gained 20%. Now the problem comes when it falls back, right? Between the second and the third, your stock index fell by 8.9%, but your levered ETF fell by double that percent, and you have lost an overall 1.8%. And the reason for that, in layman terms, is when your stock rose from 100 to 110 points, in order to maintain that 2-to-1 leverage, what did you end up having to do? Think about it. Your stock is worth 110, you got 220 worth of stock, but you're still only 100 in debt. So in order to maintain that ratio, you have to borrow $10 more. So the overall effect is that you buy more shares when it's high, you buy fewer shares when it's low. Kind of the opposite of dollar cost averaging, right? And to see this magnified over a longer period of time, right? In a short period of time, the effect was not that big. The danger is what happens when you hold it over a longer period of time, right? Here I have a 2x gold index, ProShares Ultra Gold. Now in 2011, gold hit a peak of about $1,925 an ounce. Right now, as I speak, it's about $1,800 an ounce. But look at the ETF. It has gone from 118 points down to a low of 57 points. And look at what happened over here. Over here, gold definitely beat the 2011 high. I believe last year it hit a peak of over $2,000. Now, if we were extrapolating 1925, you had what should have been a 10% gain, and instead of doubling it to a 20% gain, you have lost 40% or so. Now, most people, even if they're not buying levered ETFs, they behave like they are, right? They tend to, when their shares are high, they tend to take take on leverage in some way, right? They instead of paying down their debt, they buy even more gold or Bitcoin, right? They might not borrow the money to buy the gold or the Bitcoin, but they lever their lifestyles for sure, right? That's why we have a housing crisis where, we had a housing crisis, right? A lot of people are still over leveraged on their mortgages for sure. So here, I think at the end of 2015, gold hit a bottom of $1,050 an ounce, and right now it's 1,800. So if the levered ETF had doubled that return, it should have been up to 3,000 or so, right? But instead, it's barely doubled, right? A much more advisable route, instead of buying levered ETFs, is to dollar cost average, which is what I've done. So I started buying gold way back here. And yes, I did buy some gold here, but more importantly, I bought a whole lot more gold down here, right? And so my average of cost is probably not that far from where I started buying gold, right? And not to mention, I've also bought a lot of platinum when the ratio to gold was very low, right? I started buying platinum when it first fell below gold, and I bought a lot of it when it was half of gold, right? So historically, we've never gone more than a few decades without platinum being worth twice as much as gold at one point or another.